Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart. Sometimes things fall apart, but I hope this podcast helps you also understand that you don't have to put yourself back together alone. I'm MommaFoxFire, and today we're going back to an interview I recorded in 2020 with Ian McGuckin. I know this was recorded during the early months of COVID when we were all figuring out what isolation really meant. Some of the references will feel very specific to that time, but the core of what we talked about remains incredibly relevant. Ian was still in high school when we spoke. He'd been living with depression and anxiety since his freshman year and had begun to use self-harm as a coping mechanism in 2018. By the time we talked, he had been self-harm free since October of the previous year. That might not sound like a long time, but when you're in the thick of it, every day counts. Depression and anxiety get a lot of attention through awareness campaigns, but often it's a sanitized version. Depression is not always crying in bed with the curtains drawn. Sometimes it's going through the motions while feeling completely disconnected from everything around you. It's losing the ability to enjoy things that used to matter. Food stops tasting right. Hobbies feel pointless. You're not necessarily sad all the time. Sometimes you're just empty. Anxiety is not just feeling nervous before a test or a presentation. For a lot of people, it's a constant background noise of worry that colors every interaction and decision. It's second-guessing everything you say. It's avoiding situations that should be simple because the mental energy required feels insurmountable. Social anxiety in particular can make you feel like you're under a microscope, even when, logically, you know people aren't paying that much attention to you. And then there's self-harm. And this is where a lot of people get uncomfortable talking. We don't like talking about it because it seems extreme or scary or impossible to understand. But self-harm serves a purpose for those people who use it. That's why it's so hard for them to stop. For some, it's about feeling something when everything else feels numb. For others, it's about having control over one type of pain when emotional pain feels overwhelming and unpredictable. Some people use it as a punishment because their depression has convinced them they deserve it. Understanding why someone self-harms doesn't mean condoning it. It means recognizing that telling someone to just stop is about as useful as telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. There has to be something else to replace it with. New coping mechanisms, better support systems, sometimes medication, usually a combination of all of that. The statistics on mental health in teenagers are staggering. Around 50% of mental health conditions start by age 14 and 75% by age 24. We're talking about brains that are still developing, people dealing with hormonal changes, academic pressure, social dynamics, and then at the time add in a global pandemic. It's a lot. But here's what I appreciate about Ian's story. He doesn't present himself as someone who figured it all out and now has all the answers. He talks openly and honestly about what worked and what didn't. He talks about having supportive family and friends, but still struggling to reach out when he needed them. He talks about the misconceptions he had about his own mental health and how getting a diagnosis felt both validating and terrifying. What really struck me during this conversation was Ian's clarity about stigma. He grew up in a community where mental health was not openly discussed. He absorbed a lot of negative messaging around what it meant to have depression or anxiety. And even after his diagnosis, he fought against changing anything about his behavior because he didn't want to seem like he was using his mental illness as an excuse or just being dramatic. That is stigma in action. It doesn't just make it hard to ask for help. It makes you question whether you even deserve the help in the first place. Since this interview, Ian has been working with a nonprofit called Teens Thriving Together. They are building resources specifically designed by and for teenagers dealing with mental health challenges. The goal is to meet young people where they are and provide support that actually feels relevant to their lives. In our conversation, Ian shares specific strategies that helped him stop self-harming. Some of them might sound simple, but that doesn't mean they're easy. He talks about using ice, rubber bands, exercise, and creative outlets. He talks about the importance of keeping busy without falling into unhealthy distraction patterns. He's very thoughtful about the difference between coping and avoidance. We also talk about some lighter stuff because that's important too. His cat Joe, who only cuddles on his own terms, his love of running and cross country, true crime documentaries, and why some cases fascinate him. Because people dealing with mental health issues aren't just their diagnoses. They are whole humans with interests and hobbies and personalities. This conversation happened over 4 years ago. Ian was younger then, and so was I in a lot of ways. But listening back, I'm struck by how much of it still resonates. The challenges he faced haven't gone away. If anything, the mental health crisis among young people has gotten worse. Without further ado, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Ian McGuckin about living with depression, anxiety, and self-harm.
Which was not where I normally find guests, so it was really interesting to find someone who is willing to talk on Reddit. But I had a guest a couple weeks ago who was also from Reddit, so it's not totally unheard of, but still. So thank you, Ian, first of all, for being willing to come on here and talk to us. And thank you guys for being here and being willing to come in here and ask questions. If you have any questions while we're going along, !Q, follow with your question, and that will put it into chat and put it into a queue that I can see and prioritize your question over just the normal chatter that we have here. So Ian was diagnosed with depression and anxiety during his freshman year of high school. He started using self-harm as an escape and as self-punishment in 2018. Took much self-determination along with intervention and help from his parents and friends, as well as hospital visits, learning that those around him cared and supported him. But he has now been self-harm free since October of last year, which is super awesome. Having been through years of trying to find what worked for him and how to best manage his illnesses, he uses what he has learned now to help others and lessen the stigma around talking openly about mental health, which is awesome. It's also what we're here for today. And he also volunteers as a nonprofit where the goal is to help the well-being of struggling teenagers, and is even hoping to compile a research paper on stigma and the prevalence of mental illnesses. So welcome in.
Thank you.
Bite said congrats already. There we go. So we'll just open it up. I don't know where you are in the world, but right now I'm in Texas, and like COVID is still just a major bitch here, and it's just awful. And everyone's trying to do things inside versus going out and being in big groups. I say everyone. I don't mean everyone. I wish it was everyone being smart about it. But what are some of your favorite at-home hobbies?
Well, I have a cat, so I really like to cuddle and play around with him. He's um a little stinker sometimes, but I
Those
love
cats
him.
are.
Yeah. He doesn't really like to be cuddled. He likes to, be social, but from a distance. So he's kind of got the whole corona thing down. Um, but as for hobbies, I really enjoy playing guitar. I play a lot of electric guitar, and recently I'm still in high school, so I've been doing a lot of homework. I find that it just kind of keeps me busy. So doing my, finishing up my summer reading assignments and studying for the SAT, and that back in I find I like to keep my mind busy, so I do a lot of like reading on my own as well. So that was where the research paper initiative came from back in the start of COVID, when there was the lockdown and I pretty much could not leave my house except to run. Um, then I started researching, and I delved more into it, and I was like, hey, I could put this into something really cool. And then, yes, also I do like to run quite a bit. I'm a cross country athlete, and this is my fourth year on the cross country team at my school. And yeah, I really enjoy it. And when I'm not running, I like to work out, not necessarily just for like, to look good, but I think it's kind of fun. And it's also a nice way to feel productive,
Yeah.
rather than just like sitting around watching TV all day and then you're like, oh, I'm such a lazy bum. Like if you sit around and watch TV all day, but then you work out for like 3 hours, you're like, wow, I did something with my day.
I did something and also got to watch TV.
Yeah, exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah,
And you can work out while you watch TV, which is what
that's
most
true.
people do. So,
That is true. What kind of cat do you have?
um, he is a tuxedo cat. In fact, I
Oh,
think sh- show him to you, right? If I can, yeah, here he is.
aw, cute little kitty. We love
Yeah,
cats here.
he's
Cats are wonderful.
yeah. His name's Joe. We adopted him about a year ago, and he's very playful, but he doesn't really like to be picked up, and he doesn't like to cuddle unless it's on his accords.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
he only like very rarely will crawl like onto my lap. Usually he likes to sit next to me, but that's
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah. Cats are very much about consent. Very much. They're like, no, if I didn't ask for it, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, very much. So you volunteer for or with a nonprofit. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that? Who they are, what they do, kind of how you got involved?
Sure. The nonprofit, we aren't really out there as much yet. We're still kind of a rising nonprofit. We actually haven't even put our platform out. We're still working on it. We're working on developing a website, and the nonprofit is called Teens Thriving Together, abbreviated by T3 for
Oh, I like that.
TETT. And it's run by a group of teenagers just like me, and I'm on the executive board, and we're all working together to try and design a website that we really think is going to be helpful specifically for teens because there's a lot of good websites out there that provide specific help, um but we're looking to make it, maybe a little bit more interactive and a little bit more teen focused because a lot of times with mental health issues, um it occurs or it starts in teenage years.
Yep.
Um, and I'm pretty sure one of the statistics behind like that we put on our website is like I think it's 40% of people by the age of 18 have experienced a traumatic event. Something
Hmm.
around that. I'm sure I don't have the correct number, but it's something around there.
Yeah, it's extensive. I mean, it's a big number.
Hmm. And we're working a lot to help the individual while also helping the entire group of by group I mean teenagers and lessening the stigma. So we're doing one thing at a time right now. Where the project will probably take a few years to like really get some traction going. We're planning to have our website out in October-ish. We're currently working with a lot of website developers, and I'd say we're definitely over halfway there with developing the website.
That's
And then
awesome.
once we're done with the website, we're planning me and the CEO and one other member are going to work with um, the presidents of the National Education Association from each state, and we're going to start trying to initiate the conversation with them about how we can, incorporate more education about mental health into the curriculum. And so we had a few ideas. Um, so far, we're thinking maybe something along the lines of, rewriting part of the health program and adding um, even just like a chapter or two on mental health, because
Hmm.
I've taken health and there really isn't much on mental
Right.
health in there.
Right.
We're also thinking about starting more of like a leadership project, not necessarily so much curriculum, but also kind of more like the Project Charlie, if you've heard of that, that's used
Mm.
for combating um, drug abuse and such. I know it's really common in the state I live in, Michigan, but I don't know how common it is across the country.
Well, we have a I think ours here is called like Dare or something.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
I don't
lot.
remember what it
There's
is. It used
many
to be something.
programs.
I was in high school long ago. It was something else back then.
Yeah, but we we'd like to make a program where it's kind of like high schoolers who are educated by a sort of like training program that we give, and then they deliver that education to younger people, maybe freshmen or middle schoolers, because there's that respect. And then
Hmm.
there's also not the barrier between student and teacher.
Yeah.
So that's another idea we've had. Going back to the website we're building, we're hoping to compile lots of resources on there and, kind of make it a hub for teenagers that are struggling, not only to go like when they are struggling, but also to go just to go because we're planning on once we can get a little bit more traction. We already have quite a few donors, and we've established ourselves as like an official um, 501(c)(3) nonprofit, all the legal stuff. And so now we're going to focus on developing ways to create, I don't want to call it merchandise, but we will be selling items that we don't produce, but we will be, in essence, buying artwork or like clothing made from teens around the world and then selling it on our platform for them. And they get
Oh, that's pretty cool.
the
Yeah.
proceeds. We might, I think the idea was to mark it up 25% and the proceeds go to our website.
Hmm.
Again, we are a nonprofit and we're all teens, so none of us are looking to make any money out of this. We're all just really passionate about helping all of us struggling with mental health issues and then
Yeah.
really looking to lessen the stigma.
Man, I'm telling you, teenagers are really going to change the world for real. Like, seriously, this is who's going to make it happen right here.
Yeah,
I mean, that's such a cool thing that you're doing. And you're right. Like, I think that it's 50% of mental health illnesses are diagnosable between 14 and 24. So, like, that age range is really critical. I'm probably wrong on the statistic, but it is something like that.
yeah,
But
you're
that
probably
age
right.
range is really critical. And when I was in, okay, this is like, just bear with me. When I was in high school, like, you didn't talk about any of this at all.
Exactly.
And I in Texas is a very Baptist small town, and like you just go to church and deal with your shit, and that's it. That's all you get.
Mhm.
So um now, like, my daughter is 13 and I have talked to her about anxiety and I've talked to her about depression. Like, I got her a book 'cause she has really bad test anxiety. And so, like, I have made sure to purposefully talk to her about that because of my own experiences and the experiences of others around me. And like, it's so nice to see teenagers being willing to put themselves out there and do things like start a freaking nonprofit. Like, who I didn't have any of that drive when I was your age at all. So good for you. That's really awesome.
Thank
uh
you.
Bite at said, I know you mentioned that you're working on a website. Are there other ways to find information about your organization right now?
Right now, I do believe we had an Instagram page for a while, but I think it's been not active for like I want to say 2 months. Our because we all are teens, and the CEO and I think the CFO are both they both go to the same high school, and they were on vacation for
Hmm.
a month because they go to a year-round school, so it was like their 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
So we were on a break for a little bit. So that page has been a little bit not so consistent because we're trying to focus more on our platform and getting that out there, and then we
Hmm.
can work on getting our Instagram page and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, whenever you do get a website, please send it to me so that I can share it also, because this sounds like a really cool initiative and I just want to help you spread the love. So,
Oh, for sure.
and
Yeah,
I'll post it everywhere.
we're planning to have it out, I think, in I think about a month.
Hmm.
We're almost when we initially release it, it's still gonna be a little bit rough. It's not gonna be
Sure.
perfect. It's not gonna look totally awesome, but we're hoping to start to get the word out,
Mhm.
and we'd love, I think we're going to in about 3 weeks, we're gonna have, like, our initial content for the website done, and we're going to get, a small group of about, like, 30 people that, the executive board ourselves, like, know personally that would benefit from the website, and we're gonna walk them through the website, have them explore on their own, and see, like, get their suggestions, and then after, um, I do believe we might be doing a bigger test group of whoever would like to volunteer and get their suggestions as well as what they would like to see more of, just ideas in general, because
Mhm.
you know, what works.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's really cool. I was nowhere that ambitious at that age. No kidding. No kidding. I was not about starting a business. I think I was probably working somewhere, but I wasn't about to do anything other than just work and save money and get ready for college. That was it. That's
mhm.
all I had. So, do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
I I'm actually kinda big into the serial killer, true crime kinda deal. Especially on Netflix, I really
Mhm.
like to watch a lot of those documentaries. The Ted Bundy movie was really chilling. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, there's another show that I watched. Oh, Mindhunter on Netflix.
Mindhunter is so good. So
That
good.
was really good. It was very raw and, a little shocking often because, they use direct quotes from, um, you know, mass murderers, and it
Mhm.
was a little disturbing, but it was also
Yeah.
interesting because it went into the mind of the person who killed, like, many people, and it was kinda weird. I don't know, it kinda freaked me out because I started seeing, at least in the way they portrayed it in the movie, like, I saw these people as, like, not I mean, I saw them as awful, don't get me wrong, but I didn't I saw them as, like, still human, and it was
Mhm.
kinda scared me. I was like, "Oh." You know, there was that one guy, I forget his name, he was, like, the co-ed killer, at least how
Mhm.
they portrayed him in the movie, he was, like, super nice guy,
Yeah.
like, he was totally nice, and, like, I researched him after I watched the show, and he was known in the
Yes.
prison to be, like, very friendly with the guards,
Yep.
and he, like, got really good treatment in the prison just because the guards knew him so well, and
Mhm.
he was, like, so kind to everybody, and I was just like, "That's really weird." Like,
Yeah.
that's kinda that contrast is a little bit too much for me, but I also really like Criminal Minds. That's
Mhm.
an amazing show.
Yeah,
Um
and Mindhunter is kind of like how their unit got set
Yeah.
up, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like if you watch one, you should watch the other 2.
Exactly. Like, Criminal Minds, it can get a little bit repetitive, but
Mhm.
I've taken a break from watching it for a while, but it's fun to fall back on, you
Yeah,
know?
it is.
At least the first 2 seasons are a must watch. Those first 2 are absolutely
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The detail that goes into the crimes committed are just so insane, and how they solve it is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Um, as
Yep.
for a true crime case that really fascinates me, I really like the Zodiac case
Mhm.
and the docudrama on Netflix, The Zodiac. That was really good
Yeah.
with, RDJ and, I'm blanking, whoever plays the Hulk, and then
Oh, uh, Mark,
Ruffalo.
that's the one. I'm like, I can give you a first name. I'm surprised I can give you that much, honestly. I don't know actors' names at all.
Yeah, me neither. And then there was the guy who was just in the recent Spider-Man movie. I saw him and I was like, "Oh, I just saw you in the other movie." But yeah, that movie was really well done. It was
Mhm.
super cool, but I thought that case was I think that case fascinates me in the same way that, like, the Mindhunter kinda fascinates me because, like, the Zodiac Killer was you could see still, like, the human in him, like, there was
Mhm.
all those interviews where he was like, I wanna stop, but I can't. Like, I just want this to be done." And they had him on, like, live television, and they were trying to, like, track the call, but, that is just scary how
Yeah.
but and the ciphers that he left, I mean, you could just tell that this was a truly disturbed but genius man, you know, he was
Yes.
or she probably I think they determined it was a he, right?
Mhm.
He was, truly very smart, and I think isn't there still the final cipher that has been left,
I
like,
think so. Yeah.
uncracked? I read, a report or a news article from, like, a couple months or years back, that was from somebody who claims they had, solved it, and it was one of the it revealed themselves it was a really long message, but it revealed itself to be one of the people they suspected, but
Mm.
they couldn't rule him out because he had been they couldn't, like, say he was the Zodiac Killer because he was, like, arrested for something else and then he died in prison.
Yeah.
So and then that was also the person that, in the documentary, The Zodiac on Netflix, that was the person that they were largely pointing to. They were like,
Mhm.
"This was probably him," because that was based off a book written by the investigator, and
Yeah.
the investigator had a lot of personal evidence that it was him, like all the phone calls that he got.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that just goes to show you that you don't know what's going on in someone else's mind. That's exactly well, I mean, not exactly what I was gonna say, but yes, that's like all of these serial killers and everything and all of this stuff that goes on, like a lot of that is driven by trauma in their past. And some of that, like some of them are just brilliantly genius psychopaths, and that's a totally
Yeah,
legit thing. But even being a psychopath, like that's still related to mental health. So it's amazing to me how it just kind of you don't know. Someone can be super nice to you and then
yeah,
legitimately go kill someone that same night and then still be super nice to you the next day and you might just
uh-huh,
never know. It's trippy. It is so trippy.
crazy.
So growing up, you had anxiety and depression. What was the biggest challenge before you got that diagnosis officially? And did your perception change after you got that diagnosis your freshman year?
Um, I'd say I was definitely exhibiting symptoms, like, pretty much all through 8th grade of, mild to, like, moderate depression. I was I could see I've had a, like, common theme of just low self-esteem my entire life. Uh, I that's just maybe that's where it stemmed from, I don't really know, but that is something that I could definitely, identify as the a challenge before I was diagnosed. It was just that self-esteem barrier. I really didn't have much that I thought that I was good at, you know? And I had moved around a lot, and I actually did live in Texas for a few years.
I'm
Um,
sorry. It's hot
yeah,
here.
I was a little traumatized by the spiders, but that's okay.
Oh, we
Um,
only have a couple of poisonous ones, though.
I know, but they're big.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and we moved around a lot. So I think I lived for the first 5 years in my hometown, which is where I live now. And then we moved to Texas for 2 years, and then we moved back for 1 year, and then we actually moved to France for 2 years, and then we moved back, and then I was in middle school. So just based off that, you can kind of see where part of that self-esteem issues come from because I always had to worry about belonging.
Hmm.
Not necessarily that I didn't and that I had problems making friends. I'm pretty friendly and outgoing, so I didn't really have that much of a problem moving from place to place, but it's just establishing roots, you
Yeah.
know? establishing like historical connections with friends, because
Sense
as
of
much
belonging,
as
kind of.
yeah,
Mhm.
like as much as I could be friends with the person sitting next to me in class, like I can't have all the experiences that they've had with their
Yeah.
childhood friend sitting right next to them. So I always kind of felt like a little bit of the outsider. So that probably played into it a little bit. And then after the diagnosis, I don't know how much my perception changed about at least my condition because I was very conscious of my perception change.
Mhm.
I was like, you know, because in part, maybe because of the stigma that I had been exposed to, I live in a fairly close-minded community regarding mental health issues. So, there was a lot that I was just growing or going into middle school with all of these people. I just absorbed a lot and
Mhm.
heard a lot. And so when I finally got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, you can't like let this affect you at all. Because I was like, "You're not really actually different. It's just, a little sheet of paper and a little score on a test." And I was like, "You can't let it affect you." And I was very adamant about not changing anything after my diagnosis. I was like, "You can't act different. You can't act more entitled or use it as an excuse or be more dramatic because you feel you have a right to." And those are a lot of key aspects of the stigma that surrounds it, so
Mhm.
it's interesting to look back upon it and to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So, we have another question in the queue. It's, are there any resources you recommend for us old timers? Hey, now, older timers. I don't know. Trying to reach out to teens that are currently struggling with mental health issues. Are there any resources you recommend for teens currently struggling that maybe adults could help them find?
Hmm. You mean like, volunteering at a resource or like giving resources to kids?
I probably both. Hey,
Okay.
Jamie. Yeah, probably both. Jamie says hello, also, by the way.
Hello. I would recommend, I mean, if you're looking to volunteer somewhere, I would recommend, I don't know what the organization is called. But they're called the crisis text line,
Yeah.
and, you can text them, and I really used that resource a lot because I knew it's basically like free therapy for like a solid 10 to 20 minutes, and they're not like helping you
Mhm.
through your problems, they're just helping you through like an escalated state. And so you would just text them and you were anonymous. I mean, you could give your name. They would ask like, if you're comfortable, could you give your name so I can, like address you personally. Um, and they were there to help. They tried to like calm you down, and they have a lot of great resources that are really good, that I actually pulled from. Um, I would say if you're going to give resources to kids, I would also give that same resource to them because that's a great one for when someone's in an escalated state. At least for
Mhm.
me, going through self-harm, when I was really trying to not self-harm, that was where would go because it
Yeah.
was a mental battle that was extremely tiring and it would take hours. Sometimes it would take, like, maybe a few minutes, and that was the lucky times, but often it would take a very long time to finish the fight of just me against me, and it
Yeah.
really helps to have me and somebody else against me because then it's not so much of a conflict of, "Do I? Do I? Do I?"
Right.
Not, "You shouldn't. You should. You shouldn't. You should."
Right.
Just going on in your own head, rather you get a more external source. So I really like that one. Um,
And that's the 741741. Is that the right one? If you text
yes.
home to that number. It took
Yeah.
me a minute, and I have all these commands set up, and I always forget what they are like an idiot. So it's on my resources for the channel, but I did finally find it. It's that 741741. And you can also,
Yes.
I think you can volunteer for that one through the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I might be wrong about that one. Let me see. I'm not sure that that's the same one.
Um, as for another resource that I really recommend, I was trying to find it right there because I know I have it bookmarked somewhere on my phone. Um, it's like this. It's in the student section, student center online for Stanford.
Mhm.
They have like a student helpline for mental health, and I used it quite a bit because they have a lot of like
The Vaden
meditation
Health Center,
things.
is that the one?
Maybe I don't know. Um, once I finish just describing it a little, I'll go see if I can find it through the bookmarks on my phone because I don't want to risk cutting out again. But um, it has a lot of, meditation things, which are cool, but also a lot of de-stressors, which I went to when I was again elevated, and a lot of breathing things. Not just like there were some where it's like nature sounds to breathe along to, but also there was ones where it like instructs you to breathe in, breathe out while it like talks to you. And you certainly can look up all of these things on your own, but I think
Mhm.
having a place to have like all of these different calming techniques is
Yeah.
really cool because you can like try one, and then if it doesn't work, it's just one click away for another one rather than like having to like open a new tab and decide what do I want to do when often like you don't know how to de-stress yourself. So having a big list really helps.
Yeah. Dr. D, hey, I'm good. Thank you so much. We are here with Ian McGuckin talking about depression, anxiety, and self-harm and his experience. So he's a really cool guy. He is starting a nonprofit, which is really heckin' cool. But yeah, wow, it's going pretty good. You'd be faster if you weren't mid-interview and you know it. I don't know. We'll see. So looking back, would you do anything differently? I know that you told me that you were on medications and then you got off of the medications. Would you do anything different to stay on the medications versus coming off of them, knowing what you know now? Or would you just kind of keep everything the same?
Um, I know that at least for the first like year and a half or 2 years really, I got my antidepressants through my uh just general practitioner doctor that I went to for like physicals and like checkups, and if I had an ache in my knee or whatever. Um and there was nothing wrong with that except for the fact that I didn't check up with him often, like
Hmm.
I didn't see him very often. So it wasn't like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Ian, how are you feeling about these medications? Like, do you feel they're working?" Um he would sit me down when I like would go to see him, but that was
Hmm.
only like once every couple months.
Yeah.
And I feel if you're going to go the medication route, you really need to find one that works for you, because I know a lot of my problem was chemical imbalance because I couldn't really pinpoint a certain thing that was causing the depression and anxiety. And sure, there were things that we could work through to help like lessen them when the symptoms came on, but felt, at least in the beginning, it was largely a part due to the chemical imbalances in my
Hmm.
brain. And
Absolutely.
you can never really know exactly what's going to work and what's not because there's uh, the serotonin um, type of drugs that help inhibit. I don't want to get into all the neurochemistry
That's
because I
fine.
don't know. There's all the synapses and
Hmm.
neurons and all that stuff, but one targets serotonin, other types target dopamine. Um, there's another type of drug or neurotransmitter. I think yeah, there's SSRIs and NSRIs, I think, for medications.
Um, norepinephrine. Is that the
Yeah, yeah,
one? Yes.
yeah.
That one's I can't
That
that one's hard. That's a hard one.
yeah. I think that's actually, the adrenaline in your brain or something like that. I don't know how all the brain chemistry works, but there's all of that, and then certain drugs work different ways, and, they don't always work for every person. Like, I
Mhm.
know they put me on, like, the basics for, like, a year and a half, and they put me on, sertraline, um, uh, I think that's the pharmaceutical no, that's, like, the brand name, I forget what the pharmaceutical name is. Zoloft.
Hmm.
Um, but that one just did not work for me. Um, I really don't feel that the when I went off my meds that summer that I talked about and then things went downhill, I don't really know how much the meds actually, affected them that much. I actually felt like those medications really numbed me a lot, and they just made me
Mhm.
feel eh, like flatlined, you know, and I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so those didn't work for me, but that's not to say that they don't work for another person. So yeah, my
Absolutely.
main
Yeah.
thing is just I would really recommend getting your meds through a psychiatrist
Mhm.
because they're more in tune with all of the stuff that's going on with you because you have visits with them and you talk about like your mental state and all the things behind it. And they're
Right.
trained in all of that. So they just don't ask you, are you feeling depressed? They
Yeah.
like start to pick apart the hows and the whys and all that. And then also they're more consistent about meeting with you and so if you're going to do it through a general practitioner, then just be sure to meet with them often and
Mhm.
have them and voice your concerns about like, I don't know if this is gonna work for me. So can you
Yeah.
like check up with me a lot and make sure it is? Because I don't have a degree in
Right.
chemistry or all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, self-advocating sometimes can feel really hard to do, and if you're not able to self-advocate for yourself and explain what's going on, like, either write down a list and hand it to them, hand them a piece of paper that says, "This is everything I've been thinking about this," or take someone with you who can and be like, "Listen, I'll fill out whatever form, but this is the person who knows me and knows what's going on, and I've talked to them, and I just am not comfortable saying it out loud in this setting," but it's hard to self-advocate, but if you're seeing someone every week or every 2 weeks, it's better they're gonna understand better what's going on with you and your mood changes and everything than seeing someone once a quarter. Like,
Yeah.
that's a huge difference for sure. And if all you can do is see someone once a quarter, like, then absolutely do it and help yourself to the best of your abilities and have your support system help you to the best of their abilities. But, if you can see a psychiatrist, I definitely agree. I think that's something that could really support you faster, like you can make changes faster and everything. So absolutely. So everyone experiences illnesses and that's like down to everything and down to everything differently. Can you describe what symptoms of anxiety and depression you've encountered and kind of how those impacted your daily life?
I'd say my anxiety was largely social anxiety, mixed with more general. I was very worried about what I would say to people, how they would react, um, uh, how I looked, how I came off to people. I was worried about very weird, specific things like getting up to throw my trash away in the middle of class. It was just felt really unnerving to me to just walk and stand up when everybody else was sitting down. And as far as anxiety goes, there was a lot more, but I feel like it just fits in the category of general anxiety. I didn't really have
Mhm.
anxiety attacks. Um, I've had a few, but they're not really common enough to say that like I experience them
Mhm.
often. I've had maybe like 4 or 5 within my entire history of mental illness. As far as depression, I actually experienced a lot of anger, not towards like other people, but I a lot of anger and frustration towards myself as well as just towards my situation. Um, I wouldn't really describe that as a symptom, but more a result of the other symptoms because I was like, why is this happening? Like, I can't, because as I said before, I couldn't really pinpoint um, a major thing that happened or even like minor things that were contributing to it. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, this doesn't make sense. This, I don't understand why this is happening to me. Why do I feel this way? And so I was constantly angry. And as far as symptoms went, I felt like I described earlier, but now that like moving around a lot, I felt like an outsider almost, but I still was in I guess, I was normal. And so I started to feel very different and I felt like I was in my own world and I was very alone. Like I was just an avatar walking through all the stuff and what the real world was in my mind and nobody really knew
Mhm.
what was going on. So I just felt really alone and scared because I was afraid of all the stuff that was going on in my head and I heard lots of stories. We've all been scared by like a suicide story in 8th grade or 7th grade or something from a program that comes to our school. Um so I knew that it could lead to very many bad things, and I was a little scared of it because I didn't know, and I knew that all I knew about it is that a lot of people weren't comfortable talking about it,
Right.
and a lot of people didn't like to hear about it. So that really contributed to my loneliness and feeling isolated. And then as far as more general symptoms of depression goes, I experienced a lot of isolation, not like from others, but like I isolated myself a lot,
Mhm.
probably due to the things that I just described. Um, a lot of messed up eating, not like I would skip meals, but I just wasn't hungry all the time and I just like wouldn't eat. And it's not like I was losing weight, it's just I was like, eh, and everything just
You didn't have kind of the
I
enjoyment of a meal or of food.
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, just the enjoyment of life was taken out, and I feel like that's a pretty big theme because,
Mhm.
I didn't really like eating food anymore, I didn't like reading, I didn't like, playing my violin, I didn't like, watching TV. The only reason I would do something is because I would get bored of the current task I was doing and wanted a change. So I
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, maybe I'll go watch TV. That sounds fun." And then I'd watch TV and I was like, "This isn't fun. I don't want to do this." And I was like, "Maybe I'll go to a friend's house and hang out." But then I was like, I had those symptoms of anxiety the entire time and I was like,
Mhm.
that's just not fun. So I just wasn't really living very well.
Yeah. Depression dulls taste buds, discovered that myself. Yes, definitely, definitely, Jamie. I mean, it can. Not saying that that happens for everyone, but that is definitely something that can happen.
Yeah,
With depression
I
is that
experienced
your
that too.
your taste buds, like food, literally doesn't taste the same,
Hmm.
which is a bummer for people like me who really love to eat. Oh, bite. Yes. Okay. So bite said it's hard to self advocate in a lot of situations, and writing things down is a valid strategy for a lot of things in life. Very, very, very much so. And if you can't self advocate, like, that's okay. A lot of people can't self advocate, and you just have to take someone with you who can advocate for you or self advocate for yourself before you get there. Like, advocate for yourself on paper and then just be like, listen, I'm either going to read this to you or I'm just going to hand you this piece of paper. And
Yeah.
so many healthcare providers, mental health included, will respond to that and be like, all right, whatever, it's fine. They don't care how you give them the information as long as you're giving them the information.
Hmm.
Thank you for those 100 bits, Dr. D. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well tonight. Um, so you sent me also a really good list of things you did to help yourself stop self-harming behaviors. And rather than ask you a bunch of questions about them, I thought that it would just be good to hear kind of from you what those were and how they helped you.
Okay. I tried a lot of things, and there was a long period in my time where I would try, not to self-harm, like, very, very strongly, and there was time I mean, I obviously in between self-harming episodes, I wasn't, like, um, supporting self-harm for others, obviously not, 'cause that's awful, but, like, I wasn't supporting it for myself either. I was like, "This is awful what I'm doing to myself," and I recognize that. I just didn't have the willpower to stop it when those feelings came.
Mhm.
And so I would just try to avoid the lesser episodes rather than the big ones. But by the time that I really tried to start, you know, stopping, I tried a multitude of things. I was recommended grabbing handfuls of ice and holding it in my hand because that really hurts.
Yeah, get the
If you hold
sensation
it
of
for long
pain,
enough,
right.
yeah, it really it stings a lot more than you would think because ice, when you squeeze it together, it actually does not melt very fast. It melts a little bit and it'll like drip the entire time, but like it
Mhm,
melts and then your hands warm it up and then it hardens. And then it's just a big compact ball of cold. And so it hurts. It's like throbbing, but like it doesn't do any lasting damage.
mhm,
And um also rubber bands really help. Um those you have to be a little bit more careful with because those can cause bruising if you do
mhm.
do them a little bit too much or too intensely.
And you're talking about
But
putting those around your wrists and popping them when you
yeah,
got the urge? Gotcha.
yeah. Um Often I heard a lot about writing messages on your arms or places you would most frequently self-harm. I didn't end up doing that, but also taking like red marker and drawing the lines on wherever you would self-harm is also a good tactic. I never tried that one either. Um, but I'd imagine, or at least I've heard that, using one of the pain supplements that doesn't cause any harm, as well as using like the red drawing on your arm, like really helps to satisfy that urge because you see your brain like sees the color and it's like, oh, I'm good. When it
Mhm.
feels the pain and you're like, you know that you didn't do anything, but like you tricked your brain.
Right.
Uh, so those are some of the more physical ones. I've done, let's see, exercise is also a really good one. Not only because it works as a distraction, but also exercise can hurt. It's like
Mhm.
if you really want to do it for self-punishment, like go and do like 50 push-ups straight. And I'm not a very strong person, so that sounds awful to me. I mean, at least if you're doing like if you try and get the form really good, that really hurts.
Yeah.
And then your arms are shaking and you're like, "Oh my gosh."
Push-ups are
Um,
already the bane of my existence. Like, you tell me 50 squats and I got it with no problem right now. Add some weight to it. I don't care. Push-ups? Like, no. My upper body
yep.
strength is not there. That would be punishment for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and as I said, I'm a runner, so I love going on runs, but that also I feel like running, you kinda get that triple threat kinda action against it because you get the distraction, um, you get the pain, and then you also get the endorphin rush,
Yep.
and that applies basically for all exercise. Um, I tend to like running more because, running, you're going out and you're getting those 3, but then there's the added benefit that you're getting yourself away from your home and whatever object you were thinking about using to self-harm yourself with.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So and then usually by the time you get back, especially if you go for, like, a 30 to 40-minute run, there's probably, a really good chance that your situation has de-escalated by then. Um, Other than
Also,
that,
maybe a
let's
good chance that you're just tired.
yeah, you just and you're like looking for a little self gratification. You're like, man, a nice warm shower sounds really good
Mhm.
right now. Because as
Yeah.
much as you were hating yourself like 20 minutes ago, you still want that same pleasure feeling.
Mhm.
So
Right.
brings about a lot of good things. Exercise is a really good one, and I
Mhm.
really do recommend running or biking. And then you get to be outdoors as well. It's just really awesome. Especially if you stay consistent. Because if you're exercising like 4 to 5 days a week, really awesome for your body and your mind. As I said, there's all of those things that help as coping mechanisms, but then there's like, it gets the chemical boost, the adrenaline, and then the added dopamine, which is really good to
Yeah.
help combat depression and anxiety. Um, I did a lot of self-expression, so I did a lot of writing, and occasionally just some like I forget what it's called, but it's like freelance writing maybe, or I don't know. You just like put the pen to the paper and you just like start writing and you just kind of
Kind of
let your
free
mind wander.
association. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That tends to be kinda cool because sometimes a lot of times, um, I would have trouble pinpointing why I was feeling bad, and so sometimes when I would do that, it would help me, pinpoint at least a few things that I was like, "Oh, okay." So I really like that, and then writing is cool. I liked to write a lot of poems. Um, I actually still do write poems, not necessarily to cope, but I just like to write. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um Let's see. I used quite a few coping mechanisms to overcome this because it was a really big demon and it took quite a lot of things. And it
Mhm.
wasn't really one specific tactic that helped, but
Right.
more all of them blended,
Yeah.
finding the right
Absolutely.
mix. So I feel like the best thing is to expose yourself to as many coping mechanisms as possible, even if you just try them once, because even if it doesn't work in that one time, maybe like a couple times later or even like the next time you're in a bad situation, you're for some reason you feel more inclined to do it and you're like, "Whoa, that sounds like it might work today." Because every experience is not the same.
Mhm.
It's not every time that I wanted to self-harm, it was not for the same reasons, and it wasn't the same feeling every time.
Yeah.
Some were more intense, some were less so, but they also all had like, different underlying motives and then consciously and subconsciously. Um, I feel one of the really, really big ones is trying to understand. This one's kind of harder, but trying to understand your place, not really like in the world, because that's a big one that's like more, we'll save that for like midlife crisis time. But I just in your community at least and the people that you interact with, and understanding, you know, the web that you have just by existing, not
Mhm.
even by um interacting. And I say this for people who feel, you know, very, very isolated because I felt like one of those people and I was like, oh, like if I did something to myself, like nobody would care, you know? And um it's surprising how many people actually do care,
Mhm.
even though you think they don't. And it sounds cliche and it sounds, you know, like everybody cares, like we just all want you safe. But it's surprising, at least to the mind of an individual who believes they are worthless, it's surprising actually how many people are affected. And it's not like, at least for self-harming, like I wasn't the only person affected when I would
Mhm.
self-harm, because eventually somebody would find out, whether it was a friend or it was my mother or dad or somebody, like they weren't mad at me, but they certainly weren't happy. Like it made them sad. And they didn't want to see me that way. And they didn't want to see like what I was doing to myself. Because it really is truly awful, and nobody wants to see anybody hate themselves.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about the kind of the web. It's like there's and I feel like we bring up this thing every single time, and just me saying that you've probably already looked it up and have the link, but there's like a kind of poem thing by, oh man, what is her name? But it's anyway, I guess it doesn't matter what her name is, but there's a poem that's like, don't kill yourself today because you need to feed the dog tomorrow. Like no one's going to feed your cat tomorrow. You know,
Yeah.
whatever the reason is, like your reasons don't have to be huge. They can be
Yeah.
tiny, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. And you can find just the silliest, most seemingly mundane thing, because there's another episode of Criminal Minds coming out. Like wait until after that. Like there's all sorts of little things that if you look at those as part of a, see, there it is, Hannah Danes, there we go. If you look at that as part of your web, like there's so many different things besides just, well, my mom will miss me or my dad will miss me or whatever, because those are true and those are important, but sometimes those might not be enough. And if those aren't enough for you today, like find something different. And the same goes for self-harming. Like you can find the reasons in the smallest things in life, and it doesn't matter what your reason is. And every time your reason can be different. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good. I liked what you said about the web piece at that. Bite said I did a lot of biking in high school. Definitely helped. Yes, the endorphins are also good. Yes. Dr. D said just move around. Walking counts to get your blood moving. Yeah, absolutely. Dr. D, it's okay. I cannot run. I tried to force myself to be a runner at one point, and it was awful. It was awful. It was so awful. And that was when I was really skinny. Like that wasn't even because I was overweight or anything. It was just like a bad experience for me. And I did it for over a year and I still hated it at the end of it. Still every day I would go out and run and I still hated it every day. But going out and walking, I really enjoyed. Hiking, I really enjoy. Like it doesn't have to be running. It could be riding a bike. It's fine. Can't even walk on a treadmill for more than 10 minutes for my knees healing. I can walk for days. I like to walk. I like hiking. I like all that good stuff. I don't run either. See, there you go. Biking works way better. See, you just gotta find what works for you. I like it. So do you feel your family was supportive of you when you were trying to stop self-harming? Did they help you along the way, or did they only express disappointment, or did they do something else to help you?
I feel I was really fortunate in my support web. I had a very supportive family, and I had a few friends that I would reach out to that I were really supportive because I only reached out to them because I knew they went through mental health struggles as well. So I
Mhm.
was like, you know, they shouldn't have that same stigma that I was afraid of. But I had a really good support web. But thing was is I often didn't use it when I needed to. They were just the people that ended up finding out, and I
Mm.
would talk to them about it later, after I self-harmed or, like, after I felt bad, not, like, when I actually needed them. So I had a really good support web, but unfortunately, I did not put it to use. But yes, I did have a very, very kind family and friends, and I didn't really have anybody express, bad feelings towards me if I said anything. I opened up to a few people and I got good reactions. So that's hope to everybody out there. The stigma is kind of more of a mob mentality kind of deal. I feel when people are in a group, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, so dramatic, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. But when you get down to the individual, nobody is actually, I mean, I don't want to say nobody. There's definitely some people, but your average person would not react that way. Even if they think that way, like you are very, very, very small chance of getting that reaction,
Mhm.
especially from somebody that you're close to.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's easier once you open up to one person and you get that positive reaction, even if later on, like 5 people later, you get a negative reaction, like then you've built up this momentum. I would think that it would be hard if the first person you opened up to was not supportive, but yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any strategies you found particularly helpful for handling the symptoms of depression? And then kind of the same question for anxiety, but beyond your coping mechanisms for self-harm, anything for depression or anxiety that you would want to share?
It's been a while. I mean, been a while since I've had to think about it consciously. They're all kind of ingrained now. I tend to distraction is a really good one. For depression, at least, well, it can be a good one. It depends on your circumstances again, what works for you. Um, but I would recommend trying to get your mind active and or some part of you active, whether it's your mind or like your hands or like moving or something. Like if you want to watch a show, like great, go ahead. But I feel that a lot of times if you're just like laying, it sounds really like enticing to just like lay in your bed and just be comfortable, and that may work for you. But I found that often didn't work for me because I would just like I feel that would further my feelings of like tiredness and isolation, and I just wanted to stay there and not
Hmm.
like get out, and I just felt like time stopped.
Yeah.
And so I feel if you want to like be comfy and watch a show and put on a movie, like good for you, go ahead. But if you find that a lot of times that brings like the depression to keep going, then try just like doing something with your hands, like um maybe even like getting a Rubik's cube. I loved doing Rubik's cubes cuz I found like a little direction thing and I kind of had the algorithms down. It would take me like 30 minutes to like fully solve one. So it was just like my hands were constantly moving and my mind was working too.
Hmm.
But that's a more extreme one, maybe working on if you like to knit, just doing that with your hands or getting even just like a stress ball. Um I found doing puzzles was super fun or therapeutic to me
I
because I
love
could watch a
puzzles. I have so many
TV
puzzles.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Just doing a TV show, watching a TV show, or like listening to music while you're doing a puzzle is a super nice, relaxing thing
Hmm.
while being an escape from like your stressors
Yeah.
and like your feelings. Because if you want to sing, like you can go ahead and sing your heart out, or you can like watch your show or whatever while you're also like looking for which piece um fits here and
Hmm.
oh I need corner piece or whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I have never successfully solved a Rubik's Cube, and my daughter has a Rubik's Cube that you can't take the stickers off of. And I'm like, hang on, that's how I do it. I just take the stickers off and put them all back on the right way. That's what am I gonna do now? Dr. D, I absolutely. So Dr. D said overuse of distraction is just avoidance at sometimes, and I'm very guilty of that. Not lately, but have been very guilty of that in the past for sure. Where you get to the point where your distraction is such a coping mechanism for you that all of a sudden all you're doing is distraction. And that's not good either. You have to be really careful with that. I absolutely agree. That's a
Yeah,
good point. Thank you
very
for bringing
true.
that up for sure. B, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. So does what you've lived through, and I feel like I already know the answer to this just based on well everything you're doing with the nonprofit, but does what you've lived through help you relate to others in some way? And are there any times where your background or diagnoses have helped you connect to someone else?
Oh, totally. I It's really opened up kind of like a new almost like dark web, there's like a whole hidden society underneath the world we live in that we're not most people aren't aware of
Hmm.
because we all just go about like normal people, but nobody really knows what's actually happening. And
Absolutely.
I've found that my experiences have really helped me, um, make friends with some people with the same things. And then also, I don't want to say had the opportunity because it's not a good thing, but I've been in the circumstance where I've had to help um people who are considering self-harming or who are suicidal. And so my experience has really helped me to, provide a lot of, logic that could help them, because I know that, saying don't do it isn't the most effective way.
Right.
And I became really good at reading people and finding what works for them, because, some people really, really need just a really caring person. But some people are feeling that way because they're feeling like they're being treated differently, like they're being treated like a kicked puppy. So some people just need to be treated like, hey, like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, I explain this really serious situation to you, and you're like, okay, let's work through it, like calmly, not
Hmm.
super emotionally. And
Right.
that works for some people. And yeah, I feel my experience has really helped me develop a lot of empathy for a lot of these people, but just empathy in all around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Y'all, this kid's gonna change the world right here. I swear to you. Like this conversation was someone who is still way younger than I was when I found any sort of motivation or anything. Like, for real. This is refreshing and I love it. So these are really weird times. Any advice for others out there struggling with their own mental health?
Um, in terms of COVID, at least in these times, it's often hard with the isolation because you
Hmm.
want to isolate and it's so, so easy. But honestly, I would really recommend, at least to the more advanced community, like, maybe 16 plus once you can afford it, but getting online, that's not always a bad thing as society labels it, because, we're isolated in this COVID thing, and we, people going through this, people going through depression and anxiety and many other things, the commonality is they want to isolate. So it's really, really, really easy right now.
Hmm.
But finding something you like out there and finding a community is super cool. That's like you said, you found me on Reddit. That's why I love Reddit, because you can find communities where you can find people just like you, and you can find people and you can chat with them if you want, but you can also just like send a couple replies through a post to each other about how you both like the same song by the
Hmm.
band, or you're trying to figure out this one riff to this one song, and they're like, oh, you can use this one. And it just helps you feel less alone and that there's more people out there, because not everybody is available within physical reach, you know?
Right.
We can't see everybody face to face and we can't have personal relations with everybody. But, online can really be a good place, and, take that with a grain of salt because it can also be a bad place. But if you use it well, um, there's really some good benefits there,
Hmm.
at least in terms of COVID.
Yeah, most definitely. Uh, B said now's the time to check on loved ones for sure because we can't really visit them. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not just up to you if you're struggling. It's not just up to you to say, hey, I need to reach out to other people. If you feel like someone else hasn't talked to you in a little while, like I just texted one of my very, very best friends today, because it's her birthday and holy crap, it's almost September, you guys. But also because I haven't heard from her in a while and I was just like, hey, just thought you would check on you. Like, you know, so it's one of those things you can always reach out and check on your loved ones too. And you never know who that's going to help and who that's going to touch. Today, that's a really good point, B. Frost said, I'm going to use a word I have never used before. He said, we stan Ian. Is that right? Is that how you use that? I don't understand it quite still. But there you go. I think he's trying to say we support you and you're awesome. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
thank you.
I feel like it's important to note that reaching out to others with mental health issues does not necessarily mean talking to others about mental health issues. Yeah, absolutely. Talk to them about absolutely talk about them if you're ready or comfortable, but just communicating and bonding over other stuff can really help. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
calling someone and saying to say hi. Like that's all that you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, it really helps just to, because often a lot of people don't even, when they're going through like a mental health crisis or just they're feeling down or whatever, maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe
Right.
they do not want to work through it at the time
Mm-hmm.
because at least for me, that was what often happened for me because I was like, there's nothing to work through. Like, I just feel bad. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. Maybe we could do some like deep psychoanalysis, but I'll save that for my therapist's office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so like it really helps if you can just text them and be like talking about normal things, talking about life. And I know the normal is changing and it has changed a lot. So talking about what is normal now. How's your mask? Oh, cool. I got this
Right.
new flower one. I love it.
Yep. Dr. D said, agree with Bite Mark, just asking about the random stuff, cracking jokes, showing you're there to support for whatever. Just be there. Don't seek to occupy the space. Yes, absolutely. How about them Cowboys? Don't ask about the Cowboys. We don't talk about the Cowboys. Twitch is an awesome place right now because you can be a part of a community so easily, in my opinion. People need that, especially right now. Yeah, community is really important. And when you can't get that in person, it's important to find it online when you can also. And even churches are doing like live streams and stuff. So like everything is just centered around online right now, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to not engage also sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's that too. It's easier to not show up to a church live stream if you're a church going person, and have no one notice. Where if when I was a kid or when I went to church, if I didn't go to church, like someone would reach out to me and be like, "Hey, just didn't see you Sunday. I hope everything's okay." But now I don't go to church anymore. But if I did, like no one would know if I
Yeah.
watched or not. I mean, it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard to do that. So if you weren't doing what you do now, or if you had chosen a different path besides kind of volunteering with this organization, what would you be doing or be looking forward to doing instead?
Let's see. Just in terms of anything or
Anything at all. Like you could say, I wanted to be a rock star or I wanted to be a ballerina.
I mean, I'd love to be a rock star. That'd be super cool. I love that kind of music, so and I play electric guitar a lot, so yeah. But probably I'd be looking I am and I would be looking forward to winter because winter is definitely my winter and fall are my favorite seasons. I mean, I love all seasons pretty much equally, except spring. I mean, spring is super cool, but I feel like spring is not really, at least in Michigan, it's not very defined. Like autumn is very different from winter and summer, but I feel like spring is half winter and half summer.
It's like
So
all the rest
that's
of the seasons in Texas. We have only summer.
yeah. But I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward
Love you.
to college and
Hmm?
finding new communities there and finding future because finding where I want to go and what I want to do and doing other cool
Yeah.
stuff because I like to stay pretty busy and so right now I'm pretty stocked full on what I have going on in my life. I'm pretty busy right now, but if I wouldn't be doing this nonprofit thing or other things, I'd likely be filling it up with similar activities, that I'm passionate about or that I just like doing.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, so we've started calling this the Disney moment. And chat, we're already at the Disney moment. So if you have any other questions for Ian, please go ahead and put them into the chat while we're doing this, and then we'll open up the floor to Ian to say whatever he wants to say. So this is the Disney moment. I'm going to hand you this. I need an actual wand. Can I get a wand? I need a wand besides this fan. I hand you this wand right here. If you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness or disabilities or talking about mental health, what would it be?
honestly, that I don't know, it's hard to pick one.
It is hard to
Um,
pick one.
really difficult question. Really, really good one though. Kind of blanking on this one. I I guess I would really like to change the perception that, like, I feel mental illness has gotten a little bit more out in the open than in the past, but I'd like to change the perception that it's not that it's like just people, just like lurkers on the internet that spend all their time not socializing with people. And like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like a common
Mhm.
conception and that they're like super weird and just very antisocial and
Mhm.
kind of like his vampire kind of thing, you know? But I just want to eliminate that because would love if everybody could see that it can really happen to anybody. And all it is just a chemical imbalance.
Mhm.
Or something happened that is not really too good.
Yep.
Or just you don't process things the same as other people and you don't process things well. There's a bunch of different explanations, but it's just so many people experience mental health issues. They don't necessarily experience mental illness, but I just wish people could see that it happens to everybody. Everybody everybody has mental breakdowns. I like not full on, you know, have to go like midlife crisis kind of mental breakdowns. But like everybody has those times when their emotions and their brain takes hold of them
Mhm.
and they're like really no longer within total control. And I feel like I would love if people could see that it happens to them. Mental health issues happen to them, and mental illness can really happen to anybody, you know? Like, it's not just left to the people that you would often stereotype it to, but
Yeah.
also to like big, beefy football players or cheerleaders or whatever. Like, it's everybody.
Yeah,
It
there's
doesn't
so
discriminate.
we've talked about this statistic before. So this year, 1 in 5 people will have a diagnosable, doesn't mean that they've had it diagnosed or that they've gone and gotten help for it, a diagnosable mental illness. And if you expand that over everyone's lifetime, it's 1 in 2. So the chances are
Yeah,
like the people around you have gone through some sort of mental illness. And it's literally just an illness in your brain, like whether that's because of trauma. Trauma literally changes your brain, the way that your brain functions and everything. So I wish that people would understand that. But for sure, just if I would love to have people not be completely shocked and disbelieving when I say that I have depression out in like here in the community, like we all know that, right? But out at my work and stuff, people are like, oh, you can't have like, really? Really? Just because I don't show it on the outside, just because I'm functioning at work, doesn't mean that it's not there and doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to talk about it. So I totally, totally agree with you on that for sure. Okay, we have a question from Bite Mark. Bite Mark says, what is your favorite poem?
what is my favorite poem? Um, okay, so I just want to preface this by saying that probably my favorite poem is not a common one, and I could not name it off the top of my head. So I'm gonna go with my favorite poem that I can name, because I used to be very, on Pinterest a lot, and I would look at all the writing and stuff on there because there's really cool writing stuff on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I love all the poetry that goes through there because it is so cool. And there's so much like self-written poetry by all these different, random users, whatever, and it comes out gorgeous, like it's totally
Mm-hmm.
non-conventional. It doesn't like I would just like, whoa. So I just want to preface by saying that there's a ton of really, really cool pieces. that I love on Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as my favorite poem that is like nameable, I'd say Richard Cory. I couldn't name the author of that poem. All I remember is we had a poetry project my sophomore year, and there was a bunch of poems that we could choose from, and we could like remake them or like do a bunch of things like interpretive dance, act it out, make like a piece of artwork out of it. And so I chose that poem and I made something really cool because that whole poem is kind of revolving around like how this guy presents himself as super like rich and
Mm-hmm.
intelligent and gentlemanly on the outside, but then on the inside, it's he's well, in the end of the poem, well, I don't want to commit that uh, spoil. So
I did put a link in there in the chat. Oh, and Bite Mark put it too. So there's links multiple. Oh, same link though. Look at us. Look at us. To it. So if anyone's interested in reading it, it is there for you.
yeah, I think it's only like a 12 or 10 to 20 line poem, so
Mhm.
it's pretty short.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool because it's written in meter. I can't remember if it's written in rhyme, but I like poems that are written in meter. Because I've only written like one poem in meter, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard to make a poem that is really good and awesome and, has like a plot and a lesson and a moral in like under 50 words and then put it into beat and rhyme. It's like, oh my gosh, like how? But
It looks
it's
like
fascinating.
whenever Rich or Corey went downtown. That's iambic pentameter if it follows that.
Yeah, I think
Short
it
and
is.
long and 10. Like that's if it follows that stressing pattern all the way through, that's definitely iambic pentameter, which is hard to write.
Yeah.
So hard. We had a project when I was in high school back in the day, where we had to write another verse of Canterbury Tales. And it had to be in iambic pentameter. And it had to be the correct number of stanzas. And then we could get bonus points for dressing up to match or acting out or kind of similar thing. And I think I wrote about a princess who got beheaded and was being mourned along the way or something. And I dressed up like a princess, but I didn't have any blood or anything. So, but it was hard. It was hard to write. It was fun though. It was a fun
Yeah.
project, I have to say. Okay. We had a group project for an iambic pentameter poem. I ended up just doing it myself because of course I did. Mine was not a group project. Mine was each individual one. So B also said, you can't see what people are thinking. You never know what people are dealing with in the backgrounds of their personal lives. That's so true. That is very true. That's very true. And if it were easier to talk about it to other people and have that be an accepted thing that people did actually talk about how they're really doing instead of just, how you doing? I'm fine. It's fine. I'm
Yep.
good. Whatever. It's fine. I think that would be a really cool thing. Well, I'm going to open it up to you to just say anything you want to say, anything that we didn't get to talk about or anything you want to throw out there as far as resources or sites or recommendations or anything at all. I will just hand the floor over to you to say whatever you'd like to say.
Right. Um, I feel like we covered pretty much everything, and I felt like I got all my resources out there. What else I could say? I got nothing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to join me. And seriously, once you get your website up and running for that nonprofit, please, please, please send it to me on Discord or tag me on Twitter or however you would like to share. Tag me on Reddit. Wherever you would like to share it, please do send it to me so that I can share with everyone here. I think we're all excited to see what comes of that for sure.
For sure. Awesome.
Bite said, really looking forward to hearing more from you. You're going to do big things.
Thank you.
That was Ian McGuckin sharing his experience with depression, anxiety, and self-harm. You made it all the way through this episode. Thank you for listening. These conversations aren't always easy, but they matter. I want to come back to something Ian said that really stuck with me. He talked about how he had a strong support system but didn't use it when he actually needed it the most. He'd reach out after a crisis had passed or after he'd already self-harmed, never in the moment when the help could have made the biggest difference. I think a lot of us do this. We wait until we're on the other side of something hard before we're willing to talk about it. Maybe it feels safer that way. Maybe we don't want to burden people. Maybe we've convinced ourselves that what we're going through isn't bad enough to warrant bothering someone else. But the reality is, the people who care about you would rather hear from you in the middle of a mess than find out later you were struggling alone. Ian also talked about how mental illness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't just affect people we stereotype as troubled or antisocial. It affects athletes and musicians and straight-A students and the person sitting next to you in class who seems to have everything together. You cannot tell by looking at someone what's happening inside their brain. And that means we all need to get more comfortable checking in on each other and being honest when someone checks in on us. 1 in 5 people will experience a diagnosable mental health condition this year. 1 in 2 over the course of a lifetime. Those aren't small numbers. That's your coworkers, your family members, your friends, and probably you at some point. Mental health is health. It's not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of. If you're currently struggling with self-harm or suicidal thoughts, please reach out for help. The crisis text line in the US is available 24/7. Text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to connect with a trained crisis counselor. If you're in immediate danger, call 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline or go to your nearest emergency room. These resources exist because people want to help you. Please use them. And if you're outside the US, go to tacosfallapart.com for international resources as well. If you're supporting someone who's struggling, remember what Ian said about meeting people where they are. Not everyone needs the same approach. Some people need gentle reassurance. Others need you to treat them normally and work through the problem without excessive emotion. Pay attention to what actually helps the person in front of you, instead of defaulting to what you think should help. I recorded this interview with Ian back in 2020 when he was still in high school and already doing incredible work to reduce stigma around mental health. I hope he's out there continuing to do amazing things. His generation gives me a lot of hope. They're more willing to talk openly about mental health than any generation before them, and that willingness creates space for real change. Before we wrap up, if you found this episode valuable, please consider leaving a rate and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Comments and reviews are what help people find the show, and it helps these conversations reach more people who might need to hear them. You can also subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. I cover all kinds of topics related to mental health, disabilities, and chronic illnesses. Sometimes serious, sometimes lighter, but always honest. You can find Even Tacos Fall Apart on all major podcast platforms, and you can connect with me, MommaFoxFire, on social media for updates and resources. This show exists because people are willing to be vulnerable and share their experiences. Remember, even tacos fall apart, and we still love them when they do. One big difference is that tacos don't have people who care about them, support systems to lean on, or the ability to ask for help. You do, and that matters more than you might think right now. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next episode.